pick the perfect song. Always. Thank you, Dalton. Well, a couple things before I begin. When the Paradise Fire happened, Sue and I have known Reverend Andy for many years. We would see him at a Sillamar and at different regional meetings and everything. And occasionally when he would be gone, he would invite me to come down and talk to the congregation, a wonderful group of people. So when the fire came and they lost everything, including Reverend Andy and his wife and most of their congregation, we felt it was important to be as helpful as we could. And I am just tickled at the outpouring of support for Paradise from you, from all over the country, from Canada. It's just been amazing. And so that's the brother and sister part of this organization. So a month or so ago, when Reverend Andy came to pick up this huge wad of gift cards and checks, of course we want to know, what are you going to do? He says, everybody wants to know that. We don't know. It's too early. It's too traumatic. It's too, you lose everything and you say, tomorrow I'm going to buy a new house. Well, there's no house to buy. So he's been pondering this, and he has a wonderful job as a counselor and program manager at a rehab center in Chico. But he said, I'm not done with ministry. I want to hang my shingles somewhere. And Sue and I are going, you're yay! And so we talked to the board, because Reverend Diana is going to be a reverend at the end of summer. And we said, we've had at times in our history up to 5 staff ministers, and they help immensely. Would you approve Reverend Andy, and if Diana's ready, when she's ready? And they said, of course. So I'm just thrilled. So we're here for him and Judy, and I'm just thrilled that he would think of us, because he's such a wonderful person. Another really, really, really great thing that happened this morning. Who knows Storm King, and who's been in a wheelchair for 2.5 years? He lost the bottom of his leg 2.5 years ago for medical reasons. The VA finally fitted him with the right prosthesis, and he rolled himself in here this morning and he stood up. Woo! He can't walk yet because the foot prosthesis is in 2 parts, so you can walk on uneven ground, and they haven't got that worked out yet. Major miracle. But when you see him, give him lots of hugs. He was just so excited to be able to stand. It was just wonderful. All right, now I'm ready. The topic of this is cultivating the witness, which is why the reading was about the great I am. Many of you know we live in Lake California, and many years ago we lived on a cliff in Lake California, high up, 70 feet above the Sacramento River, and we had a wonderful view. It was a wonderful house, and had a little front yard, and one day some kids were down at the water's edge, and they started a fire. Well, luckily we were home, because we could see the smoke coming up from the creek in front of our property, and we were like, oh my God, call 911. Lake California has our own fire department, so they were there in a couple minutes. So the firefighters came, the trucks came, they looked over the edge, they're laying out hose, taking their time, they know their game plan, and one of their newbies, he was a new guy on the team, grabbed the hose and ran off the cliff with the hose. He didn't even know how it was 70 feet below. So he's crashing through trees and brush, and he lands by the water, and he broke his leg, and the other firefighters are going, oh man, now we got 2 problems. Because you couldn't get down there, so they had to call in a helicopter to pick him up. So he was a little bit embarrassed that his I'm going to save the day attitude came before thinking what he was doing. So that's what I thought of when I read this chapter in Wayne Dyer's book, The Sacred Self. The chapter is Cultivating the Witness. And often, I don't know about you, but for me, like I'm standing here right now and 2 conversations are going on. The conversation I'm having with you and the conversation in my mind that will click in sometimes go, Oh, don't read that sentence. Oh, let that paragraph go. Well, why don't we rearrange the words? There's this little chattering voice sometimes that's going on. And my conversation right now is my conscious mind, my present mind, my human mind with you. But this other conversation comes from our higher self, our soul. And I just am in awe of that. And at times when it goes, do I have your attention? Dyer shared a story in this chapter in the book. He had a client who was suffering from terminal sadness. Sadness from the moment she woke up till the moment she went to sleep. So he was baffled at that, terminal sadness. And he said, let me ask you, you know the conscious you that's sad, but is the voice that's telling you you're sad also sad? Aha. Is the voice telling you you're sad also sad? And she sat with it and she said, no, it's not. It's not. And he said, if you keep identifying with the higher self, the sadness will dissipate. Identify with the higher self. Identify with that voice, your soul's voice. And in a few months, the sadness was gone. The voice of the higher self is always available. Of course, if we're paying attention, if we're listening. But it's always there, and it's in here, it's around here, it's in me, it's with me, and all I need to do is pay attention. All I need to do is notice it. It's called witnessing the higher voice within with what's going on outside me, but it's also called noticing that this higher voice is an energy that when I notice it or I listen to it, it creates a space in my life for goodness, for clarity. A spiritual teacher named Maharaj described it like this: in the higher self's world, nothing ever goes wrong. This is the world of the higher self. While in the human world, nothing stays the same. I could ask for an amen. I'm sure you agree with that. Nothing stays the same. But in the higher world, nothing ever changes. When I was a chaplain associate at Shasta Regional Medical Center, my favorite place to do rounds was in the ER. And I loved it because all the doctors and the nurses in the ER were always in the witnessing mode. You never saw them running around frantically going, oh my God, oh my God. No, they were always in the witnessing mode. The ambulance company would call, say, we've got a patient coming in. Here's what the problem is. They would say, okay, what's our plan? When the patient comes in, they would witness the situation. They would know intuitively what to do, and if they had to change their plan, they would. Sometimes when I was doing that, the family would come in, and they would go, chaplain, could you sit with the family in the witnessing consciousness, in the witnessing mode, fully alert to what they're going through, listening to every word that they had to say, wondering, okay, God, how can I help ease their pain? How can I help them ease the fear? Because to me, in that witnessing mode, it's all clear. It's all unfolding perfectly. So those words come through this spiritual dimension that I can't say it's right there. It's all throughout each one of us. The soul speaks throughout each one of us. And the advantage of knowing that is that we can detach. Now, sometimes the word detachment means I don't want to energetically involve myself with you. But that's from a spiritual point of view, from a minister and practitioner point of view, that's not it. It's I want to see the truth about you. I want to see the truth about this situation. And from that, we get an expanded view of what's really happening. The famous Dr. Chandramouli, he's the local heart surgeon in town, wonderful man. He came to talk with our chaplain group one time, and he was telling us about his day and his work, and someone said, well, do you do spiritual practices? And he said, I start my day with meditation. And before I meet with any patient and going to do surgery, I pray in my heart with God to give me the wisdom to know exactly what to do when I need to do it. Now that's the kind of surgeon that I think is really valuable. But it was his spiritual practice. He is not the one doing the surgery, it's his higher self that was doing that. So you can cultivate this witness. You can cultivate your higher self and being in contact with that. It takes paying attention, and it takes some listening. Here's what Maharaj says. Give your higher self full attention, examine it with loving care, and you will discover heights and depths of your being which you never dreamt of. That's how powerful it is. You will discover heights and depths of being which you did not dream of. But then in this quote, I thought, why did he have to add this? He said, instead of being engrossed as you are in the puny image of yourself. But you know, when you talk from on high, all of a sudden you want to go, wake up. Do we think of ourselves in a puny image when we are really in God's image? I thought that was cute. So on a daily basis, we can become more aware of what bothers us. Now, I think this is interesting. Why does this bother me? Why does that bother me? What's going on? Because the higher self does not have problems. We're bringing these on. The higher self does not have problems. Problems come and go for us as humans. And there's a little story I thought that might help explain this. A king asked a wise man, what will make me happy when I'm sad? And what will make me sad when I'm happy? And the wise man went away, and a couple days later he came back with a ring, and on it was engraved these words, this too shall pass. Your happiness will pass. Your sadness will pass. Dyer, in this book, described a time in his life when he was very anxious from the pressures of all the deadlines in his life. He was very famous, and as you can imagine, all the deadlines he had to deal with. So he would worry, and his stomach would get upset. But once he learned about the power of being the witness, he started observing those deadlines, and he detached himself from them. He became calm and confident that he would meet easily every deadline. So I had to try this out this week. If you had snow, any snow this week? The other day leaving church, it was 59 degrees, and when I got to Lake California Drive, it was 38 degrees. And snow was coming down like crazy. We had about 1.5 inches, and it was snowy and slushy and scary, and I was glad to get home. And in the morning, I went out to get the paper, and our mailbox was covered with ice. So I had an 8 o'clock appointment in Redding, and it was an important appointment. So I left very early, and when you leave Lake California early, anytime after 7, there's dozens of cars going out this one-way entrance and exit, and there were icy spots, and people were driving slow, and I started to get, oh no, oh dear. So I get to I-5, and the traffic's slow, and there's trucks going in the left lane, and I'm like, oh my God. And all of a sudden I went, stop it. Stop it. Stop worrying about that. Go to my higher self. Go, I'm going to be on time, in time, whatever's going on. They may not even be open at 8 o'clock. They may have been at 10 after 8. Who knows? I'm going to trust my higher self. I'm going to get there. I slowed down. I paid attention. I was just observing the traffic, and I was very calm, and I got there 1 minute to 8. And I just had to smile. God, it really works. So I encourage you to try this. Use that connection with your higher self. Get rid of the frustration. Get rid of the anxiety. Carl Sandburg once said, Something began me, and it had no beginning. Something will end me, and it has no end. So something began us that had no beginning, obviously God, but something will end us as human beings, but our soul has no end. Great wisdom, great wisdom. There is something about that part of ourselves that is changeless. If we can stop judging things, we will find it easier, a lot easier. Because what happens when we're judging things as wrong. Maharaj said, there's nothing wrong in my world. There's no problems in my world. You know, wherever we place our energy, it goes forth from us like a wave in the ocean. Wherever we place our attention, we are sending energy. And energy is in everything. It's in the chair you're sitting in. It's in the podium. It's in everything around us, these little atoms that are just buzzing around. It's just all pure energy. And when we're with other people, we're exchanging energy. When you go in the social hall and sit and talk, you're exchanging energy. So all these energy exchanges get stored in our subconscious mind. If you have been in classes, you know the difference between our conscious mind and our subconscious mind. Subconscious mind holds everything we've ever thought, believed, done, everything. It's this huge, huge library of information about us. But not everything in our subconscious mind is positive. We've stored a lot of negative energy in subconscious mind. Every time we judge someone, every time we're angry at someone, every time we scream at politicians, we're storing subconscious energy. So there's a lot of other stuff in subconscious mind that maybe we aren't so proud of, but we forgot we did that 10 years ago. And the more negative energy stored in there makes us subconsciously lethargic. We just don't have as much energy. It can really slow us down in our spiritual path. So there's a practice called recapitulation. It's a big word, so I looked it up. Summing up. It was practiced by spiritual masters in South America and Mexico. Their process is go in your mind and find in the past where you've had intense negative energy, because that's now in your subconscious mind. Call on your higher self to help you look at that instance or that activity from a different vantage point. Maybe from the other person that was there, maybe from somebody who was observing you, maybe from someone who was in a restaurant or someone else that had anything to do with this event that you had such negative energy about, and let the higher self show you what was really going on for everyone. And when you see all the different opinions and all the different energies, the negative energy you're holding on to dissipates, it goes away. Because now you're seeing it from the higher self. I remember as a child, I had a very negative experience that was resolved, and I realized writing this talk, it was resolved by listening to a higher self. I was in 3rd grade at St. Joseph's Catholic School in Springfield, Ohio, and my teacher was Sister Mary Agnes. Sister Mary Agnes was not a happy person. She yelled constantly. And at least twice a week, she would break a 3-foot ruler over the backs of the boys if they didn't answer a question correctly. She wouldn't hit the girls, but she would be in your face yelling at you if you didn't have the right answer. It wasn't long before I was petrified. I was petrified of this woman. It wasn't long, so I was so petrified that on the way to getting the school bus, I would throw up, have to go home and lay down for the whole day. I did this, it happened day after day. And finally, I couldn't even go to school. So my mom took me to all these doctors and finally said, we don't know what's wrong with her. I would never confess, because they paid a lot of money for me to go to this school. How can you say your sister teacher is bad. You just can't as a kid in third grade. So anyway, I missed over half the school year, and I had to go to summer school, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And as I was writing this talk, I realized, I was thinking, how much negative energy did that third grader put in subconscious mind? Truthfully, I should have been traumatized for life. But I wasn't. I thought, why wasn't I? Because I had fourth grade, then fifth grade. Fifth grade, we're all standing in the playground, and the principal is there, and he's got a list, and he calls your name and says, stand in this line, you stand in this line, you stand in this line. And I noticed at the front of one of the lines was Sister Mary Agnes. And I knew it. I just knew it. I was chosen to be in her school, in her grade, in fifth grade. And I got a lump in my throat, and my conscious mind wanted to run, but I didn't. But the first week, she caught me in the coat closet. Now, you don't have those now in school, but it was a wall where there's a closet behind and y'all hung your coats up. But she caught me in the coat closet, and she pushed me up against the wall, and she said, "Are you still afraid of me?" I said, "No, ma'am, I'm not." Whew. I had the consciousness of mind to be that clear with her, and that was all it took. But I had to think about where did that come from? And it had to come from my fourth grade teacher, who wasn't a nun, who was wonderful, who probably encouraged me or to instill in me courage and clarity in speaking up for what was right with me. It must have been her to have the confidence to stop being afraid of Sister Mary Agnes. So I hope that shares with you that you have a choice. You're always a choice. We can invite in the witness consciousness so we don't identify what's taking place. We become the observer to see the truth about it. Not to be unfeeling, but to see the truth about it. Maslow, who has his hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy, described that as the highest functioning level of ourselves, where we are independent of even the good opinion people have of us. If we can feel independent of that, it means the ego is not in control. So you probably know from my previous talks that I pay attention to what's happening in the world today. I read magazines, I look at the news, I want to know what's going on, and sometimes I'm compelled to write a letter. Sometimes I'm compelled to call someone, but I want to know. And most of the time, if I'm in this higher conscious level, I'll go, now that's an interesting problem. I wonder how they're going to get out of this. Or like in Venezuela, this is interesting. I'm going to pay attention because I want to know how the average person believes they need to be in this world. Dyer says, by doing this, we contribute to the collective energy of peace by seeing that higher level of what's going on. He said, because a consciousness of anger and hate is never going to eradicate war. So this is one of the things that Centers for Spiritual Living teaches practitioners and ministers. I've heard some people say, I went to a practitioner, but she just didn't understand my problem. She didn't sympathize with me. No. We listen, and we hear from what we instill in ourselves is a higher level of consciousness. If a practitioner ever says to you, "Oh my God, that's horrible, tell me," because we are trained not to do that. We are trained not to. It may feel impersonal, but it's the highest level of order for us to find in you where are those negative pockets of negative energy, like from my third grade, that may still be impacting you. That's what we do. And it's very, very powerful. When we're in that witness mode, it radiates calmness where we can be observers. It's the spiritual revolution in society that we're participating in. And we know how much it's needed. But then that's a judgment. It's all unfolding perfectly. Okay, I remember. It's all in divine order. You know, we're really young as a human race, and we're still trying so hard to learn how to get along with each other, but the judgment is so prevalent that we often don't even hear it in ourselves. Another thing that helps is last week, Reverend Sue's talk was about doubt. We have to banish doubt. How can we doubt God? How can we doubt the infinite intelligence of the universe? So if we can banish doubt, we're reaching that higher level of consciousness that is so powerful. To be a witness without any doubt is true freedom. And that's the benefit of studying this philosophy. This is what we teach, the essence of what we teach. And you may not hear it for a couple years or understand it for a few years, but it's the essence of what we teach. We are not our problems. We are not our frustrations. We aren't even our physical life. We are the I am. We are that which is noticing it all. So join me in a prayer for that recognition. That I am presence is here, surrounding you, swimming through your veins, swimming through your brain, through every aspect of your body. That I am presence is there. And it's always been there, because it's all one. All created by the one infinite intelligence of the universe. And the more I learn about that, the more I am just blown away by the power of it all. It's true, the higher self doesn't have problems. The higher self looks at all that's going on and knows the truth. For each one of us, it's unfolding perfectly. For our greater good, to learn these truths, to embody these truths, and to pass on a positive, loving energy to a world that desperately is looking for that. I'm so grateful to have done this talk this week, because I have been profoundly changed by just what I came up with. I can't forget it. I can't let go of it. I'm going to watch myself every day. See how much clearer I can be in life. How I can understand you and all those I meet in a higher way. So I embrace this consciousness of oneness, being the witness, being detached from the human things that are going on, and be totally attached to the super spiritual, incredible things that are going on. So I'm grateful. And I let these words unfold in your life in any way that works for you, because we all have the capacity. It's letting go of doubt and judgment that will help us get there. So I say thank you, God, and let these words unfold as they are said. And so it is.